Author of this text is Boyan Yaklin Polish, and it was written around 2013 and 2014. At the beginning of 2008, I had the most powerful experience of my life. A powerful energy was rising, slowly sliding up the center of my spine, and as it did, I became more and more awake and present. The feeling of that energy sliding up the center of my spine was physically similar to the feeling of a thin snake sliding up your spine. My body automatically straightened into a sitting position, and I automatically placed my hands on my knees, as if the experience itself had commanded me to do so. As the energy slid and rose, my wakefulness and presence became stronger, deeper, and more intense with each millimeter. You can't imagine that wakefulness if you haven't had that experience, and most people haven't. My heart was pounding like never before or since, and the feeling of wakefulness was like being awakened in the middle of the night by excruciating toothache, but without that negative aspect. It was awakening like sudden strong pain, but without any pain. Or like taking a shower in icy water, only much stronger, and those are actually weak comparisons in the absence of better ones. Later on, I really liked the analogy of a awakened author who said that awakening Kundalini is like jumping out of an airplane and suddenly not being sure if you brought a parachute. Therefore, there is tremendous fear and uncertainty, but also a desire for the experience to continue, at least for a certain number of people, because the same author said that many people shut themselves off from the experience out of fear for their lives. I didn't shut myself off because I was desperate. I let the experience totally blow me away, and the energy kept rising. Suddenly, the heartbeats calmed down, and at the same time, I literally swallowed my tongue, so that its tip was deep in my throat. That feeling of swallowing my tongue was filled with incredible pleasure. Along with that, even though I was in a completely dark, unlit room, with the blinds down, and it was also dark outside because it was a winter evening, so there was no light to speak of, by swallowing my tongue in my inner self, I saw a beautiful, perfectly clear and compact light. I had a feeling that I was drinking it in some way, and that it was coming down, falling from above, but soon I completely lost the feeling of my body. I didn't know in those moments where my head was, where my arm was and where my leg was. However, regardless of the fact that the body remained, as I felt, somewhere below, I had a fantastic, expanded sense of space, at least 3 or even 5 times larger than the usual physical feeling. The thing that surprised and delighted me the most was the fact that breathing was completely eliminated, suspended, but I didn't realize it right away. The light was first a beautiful deep orange color, slightly lighter in the center, and then gradually darker towards the edge, but the longer I looked at it, the more it became white-yellow in the center and still deep orange around it. After some time, probably even a few minutes, and maybe even much more, because the sense of time was different, that is, I had a sense that it was not passing anymore. I had a feeling that it was no longer passing, that at one moment, I was separated from space and time in a completely unknown way, but anyway, at one point, the realization hit me, I'm not breathing, man, I'm not breathing. And so I continued not to breathe. But that light that I was drinking and that I was, it wasn't just light. While I was absorbed in it, I had a very changed sense of self. Suddenly, I was some new, much wider and more real version of myself. As if I saw my true self from a much more real and beautiful world. I can't describe it differently, but it reminded me of an analogy from Eastern stories, a sheep that realizes it's a tiger, but has forgotten it growing up with sheep. I wasn't a tiger, but I was a deep, conscious, wide light being. As if that wasn't enough, the light gave me an important and comprehensive message, which could be told in various ways, but that message didn't come in words, but through direct insight and realization. Actually, I don't know to this day what that light was, whether it was God himself, whether it was some divine being, or perhaps a spirit that permeates all existence, but the message I received, and which I translated for a long time afterward, in the most literal and simplest translation, reads, "Don't be afraid, you're safe now. The meaning of life is the progress of every being.